Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So, by the title, I am sure many of you are furious with what it says, and so I thought I should just let you know, before going into the reasoning behind the title, that I am a huge Marvel fan, and Avengers Infinity War and Endgame are some of my favourite films of all time. I saw both collectively 6 times in the cinema, and loved them every single time. So please don't think that I am a biased DC fan who hates Marvel. It is not the case whatsoever. So now, I will explain why Avengers Infinity War and Endgame copied Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3. Now I know what you're thinking. There isn't a Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3 movie, so how could they have copied them? Well, that's true, but the storyboards for Justice League 2 and 3 were written way back in 2015. And were officially released last year. If you wish to know exactly what was going to happen in those 2 movies, then check out this video on my channel where I narrate the official storyboards for those movies. In this video, I will be showing why I think Marvel copied Snyder's storyboards, because they are surprisingly similar. So the rough story for Avengers Infinity War is that the Avengers have gone their separate ways, and Thanos is trying to collect all the Infinity Stones to half the universe's population, and the film ends with Thanos winning. The rough story for Justice League 2 is that the Justice League go their separate ways to fix their personal lives. Darkseid comes to Earth for the anti-life equation, and the film ends with Darkseid winning. Now that is the rough story for both films, but obviously both divert to tell stories that make sense for the characters contained in the movie. The rough story for Avengers Endgame is that Thanos won, the remaining Avengers attempt to go back in time to reverse what Thanos did. Then there is an end battle where all the Avengers are back, taking on Thanos and his army, and then arguably the most popular character, Iron Man, dies. The rough story for Justice League 3 is that Darkseid won, the remaining members of the League attempt to go back in time to reverse what happened. They succeed, then there is an end battle where all the Justice League members take on Darkseid and his army, and then arguably the most popular character, Batman, dies. So you can start to see the similarities between them. A more specific similarity is that both films jump into the future. 5 years into the future to be precise. Avengers Endgame is the film that jumps into the future by 5 years for Marvel, and the end of Justice League 2 is the film that jumps 5 years into the future for DC, both where the villain won. Now most of you will know the legend that is Kevin Feige, but not as many of you will know Geoff Johns. Now, Johns wanted to be the Kevin Feige of DC, and wanted to create a DC universe to rival the MCU. But he has also been caught in a lot of drama behind the scenes at DC projects. His most famous being the mistreatment of the Justice League cast on the reshoots, specifically Ray Fisher. Geoff Johns and Kevin Feige were both interns on the original Superman movie, and have remained friends since. The Justice League sequel storyboards were created by Zack Snyder and scribed by Geoff Johns. He knew exactly what was going to happen in Snyder's Justice League sequels. So this theory does have quite a lot of things that add up and make sense. Johns and Feige were close, and the theory is that Johns told Feige the story of the Justice League sequels, and Feige used it as inspiration for his Avengers sequels. Now, this is just a theory. However, when you look at it from a neutral perspective, you can really start to see the similarities. Avengers Infinity Wars and presumably Avengers Endgame's writing began in early 2015. They were announced in 2014 as Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, but they changed the title to Avengers Infinity War in 2016. This could have been due to the new information Feige had been told by Johns. At this point in time, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice hadn't even hit cinemas, so if Marvel beat them to it, then it would look like DC copied Marvel for their Justice League sequels. Now I know that is a huge accusation to make, but I can't help but see the similarities between them. Now without this next part of information, you could very well switch the scenario, with Feige telling Johns about the Infinity War and Endgame story and giving it to Snyder to use for his Justice League sequels. However, that wouldn't make any sense because of how blatantly obvious the copying would be, as Justice League 2 and 3 would have come out very closely after Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. In 2017, extensive reshoots happened on Justice League when Zack Snyder left the project. I think Geoff Johns pushed for the reshoots to happen because he knew that Feige was going to use key elements from Snyder's story, and so he had to make sure that Justice League didn't set up for those sequels to happen. He and Joss Whedon rewrote the script for Justice League, and what we saw in 2017 was because of them. On March 18th, 2021, the Snyder Cut was released, the true version of that film, and one that sets up Darkseid's invasion. I think Geoff Johns did like Snyder's story for Justice League 2 and 3, but he couldn't use it because he knew he messed up and gave it to Feige. So he had to push for the entire story and tonal change of Justice League. If he didn't, then the world would have seen that the Justice League sequels were very similar to Infinity War and Endgame. People at DC and Warner Brothers would have added up the dots and traced it back to Geoff Johns, which could have resulted in the loss of his job. He couldn't have stopped Feige because at this point in time, most of their filming was done. So he had no choice but to change Justice League to move away from that storyline. I think that this is why Warner Brothers are so determined to remove Snyder's storyline from the DC universe. Because if they did allow the story to happen, then it would reveal the theory that I just explained as truth. I think this theory could be true, and if it is, it doesn't change my thoughts on Avengers Infinity War or Endgame. I still love them both, and I always will. I think they took inspiration from Snyder's story, but adapted it to create two brilliant films. If this was created by storytellers at Marvel, then all credit goes to them for creating two incredible stories. I don't want to take credit away from some very talented writers. However, to me, it seems pretty obvious that elements were inspired by Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3 storyboards. So the question is, do you think Avengers Infinity War and Endgame copied Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3? Or do you think it is just a coincidence? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. Before I leave you, I just want to emphasize that this video is not from a biased fan. I love both Marvel and DC movies. I love them both for what they are, and I appreciate them for their differences. If you look back at my channel, then it would appear that I seem to mainly put out DC, specifically Snyder Cut content. However, this was due to my Instagram account at Zack Snyder's Justice League. I created the account back in April 2020, as I wanted to see the Snyder Cut released, because I think it is very important for a director's vision to be fully realised, and I loved the characters. So my followers on my Instagram account asked me to create a YouTube channel to go more in depth with my updates. I named the channel Our Movie Review because I didn't want to limit myself to just DC content, as I love Marvel, Star Wars, and films in general. As I became more confident on YouTube, I have now been able to branch out into more franchises, which is why you can see more Marvel and Star Wars content on the channel. Anyway, back to my point, which is that I am not a biased DC or Snyder fan. I love Marvel too. So please don't think this is a biased video where I defend Snyder till I die, and only he can create good superhero films, because I'm not like that. I'm a very neutral fan. If you like that, then it would be great to have you join the channel and this wonderful community. This video was to just display my thoughts on the similarities between both movies, and why I think one took inspiration from the other. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this theory in the comments below. But that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!